So I'm at the Black Coffee here in Newtown and Wellington. I'm about to order a coffee. They make really, really good coffee. So if you're looking for a place for a cup of coffee, great. What I've just started to do is my little trip as I'm edging closer and closer towards the heart of the bullshit factory. Is basically I've just been walking down the street, popping into a couple of different shops, talking to the people that actually serve me, just to get an overall feeling about what happens from what people feel about in Wellington. About the protesters. Now, Newtown is a lower socioeconomic suburb. It's got a lot of students, it's got a lot of immigrants, a lot of basically people that aren't what you would call millionaires. So I've been walking down the street, just as people come at me, I've been talking to them. So what I've actually found is I've spoken to, again, not a hard, fast scientific call out by any stretch of the imagination, but generally what I've found is that when I've spoken to most of the immigrants, they're no comment. They just don't want to talk to the media. The one guy I spoke to was a lovely, lovely Greek guy, and he was, politicians, they're all liars. I voted 61, I voted Labour all my life, but never again. And his basic point was that basically it wasn't anything to do with COVID, it was just he got less and less in his pay packet every week. Sort of basically he wasn't impressed with things like the economic policies were more the concern for him. Of the other group of people that we've spoken to, again, next group of people that weren't keen to talk were people who are basically of Polynesian or Maori descent. Again, most of them were no comment, and that was just anybody in authority that didn't have a great deal of level of trust with. I've been walking down the street doing what I do anyway because I'm from the South Island, going, "G'day," Nick Dundee's my name. How you doing? And they're having a lot of warm smiles when I'm walking around. Admittedly, I am wearing my press badge, so whether that's having any impact, although it is on my back, to be fair, I'm not 100% certain. Now, when I turn around and start speaking to New Zealand residents who mostly tend to be business owners or in Pākehā's business, and sort of wouldn't say necessarily rich, but they're probably readily doing actually, they've got food in the cupboard and they've got a roof over their head. Most of the feeling was in Newtown was that they believed that the mandates needed to come to an end, but they weren't necessarily that particularly impressed. They felt that the feeling was that the protest had sort of made its point, but that was starting now to attract a level of undesirables. There was also a consideration, however, that there was a recognition that some of those undesirables... G'day, mate.
You go, my bro.
No worries. Have you got 5 seconds for me to ask you a quick impromptu pop quiz?
Probably going to keep fucking working.
No worries, mate. Okay, cool. So that's a local working lad. Here's someone I talk. He's all masked up, and he didn't give me necessarily a warm, friendly fuzzy when I walked in there. No one's really given you warm, friendly fuzzies around here, so I won't hold that against them. But overall, it's been like, yes, they recognise that some of the people there, they can't be controlled. When I've actually asked them, the overall question I've actually asked, however, that's interesting. We've just got a bit of a helicopter flying over here, and it's flying relatively low. No, that's nothing to do with the protest. That's just the Westpac helicopter. But overall, the feeling was that when I asked overall to people that would say, "Look, have you been down there? Have you actually talked to any of the protesters themselves?" The answer was overall was basically no. So most people are getting their information from either social media formats, or they're getting their information from television and RNZ. There was a reasonable amount of praise for Radio New Zealand that came out, and that they felt that Radio New Zealand was one of the few outlets out there, surprise, surprise, who was actually trying to do a job of actually promoting both sides of what's actually been promoted at the protest. So that's just been my impromptu pop quiz as I've been walking down towards the town. So I'm going to repeat this experience when I get down to the Lambton Quay, and just see how things actually turn around as you get closer towards the protest itself. Okay, so, and I guess another thing, of course, was what I found quite funny, and I may have mentioned at the beginning, but I'll repeat it, was that, It's like some people are wearing masks, some people are wearing them just like over their face but not their nose, and some people are not wearing them at all. So, you know, again, it's just interesting to look at how much people are sort of doing things because they actually have to versus actually doing them because they're doing them in the correct fashion. But anyway, this has been Vidgen. This is my little what I'm calling Deadline TV, and we'll give you you know, sort of, we'll put this down on YouTube and then again to the newsletter later on, and just give you sort of an overall holistic kind of coverage of events, and not necessarily kind of always going straight into the thick of it. We want to try and find different news sources so we can give you an overall perspective about what the overall feeling is when people look at it from different perspectives. So anyway, this has been Vidgen, and I'm going to enjoy my lovely coffee at Black Coffee, because they really do a good black coffee when you're in Newtown.